Today is October the 9th, 2024, and I've got a new project going on, and so I'm going to set myself up a Dutch bucket aquaponics system here, and aquaponics rather than hydroponics because the water feeding it is actually going to come out of this goldfish ponds. And right now my big pump for the waterfall is out, so I'm using a little small pump that I got, believe it or not, off of Etsy, and it does okay. I'll see if this will work. I may have to order a little bigger one, but they're fairly cheap. And so I'll pump out of the bottom pond into the buckets, and then it'll drain back into the upper pond. The plan, whoop, I tripped myself here. The plan is, this is my drain pipe. I'm gonna cut it in right in here, elbow, and come in over there, maybe disguise it with some wood or something. I have plenty of pieces of bark laying around here off of some trees, and we can disguise it. Don't have to be disguised, just let it drain back in there. But so I've got my blocks, I've got this 2x10, I believe it is. The buckets do hang over a little on either side, but that's okay. I'm just using these old buckets. Now, I know these aren't all food grade buckets, but it's what I'm gonna use right now until I see how well this system works for me, and then maybe next year I can invest in a better set of buckets. Some of these been outside for a while anyway, are getting weather worn and cracked, and so they're not a long-term solution. It's just right now. So drill my hoe. Now my hoes are centered 2.5 inches up from the bottom, and I don't have anything put together yet, but let's got this piece of junk running. So a piece of pipe's going to go through the hoe and elbow down, and I'll show you all this at a later time when it's finished, so you can get a better picture of it. As water is flowing in, being pumped constantly, coming out these tubes, once it reaches about 2 inches, almost 2 inches in depth, it'll start coming out that hole there, going into my drain and going back, and it's a constant recirculation of this water, which will help filter the water to clean it to go back to the fish, and the fish waste in the water will clean will fertilize the plants. Currently there's only 4 goldfish in that pond, but we'll have some more fish put in there because 4 goldfish isn't going to support all this. I have 8 of these buckets. The plan is I've still got to get some paint strainers, 5-gallon paint strainers, and get them from the paint store, and they will line these buckets. And let me go over here, and I got this in the mail, or not in the mail, through UPS yesterday. It came in, my coarse perlite. Got a big 120 quart bag of it shipped to me. Is like $37, $38, and we're going to fill the bags. Once we get the bags in there, we'll fill the buckets up with this, and this is what the plants will be rooted into. Soilless medium, no dirt in the buckets, just the perlite. And I've seen pros and cons for that, but that's what we're going to start out with. That's how my experiment's going to start out for myself. Different things work better for different people in different areas, and so I put this piece of galvanized pipe up here and hung it by wire from the trusses, so that my tube in here, this stuff is soft, irrigation tube, whatever you want to call it, sprinkler tubing, is soft. So this pipe, I can adjust it in or out, up or down, and keep all my water coming in at a level situation. At each bucket there'll be one of these. This was a piece of used. I'm repurposing the buckets, repurposing everything in here, the blocks, everything. I haven't bought anything so far except the drill bit, the hose saw. Walmart, $7 and something for a set of them. I'm using an 1.25 inch hose saw, and I've got these grommets. I've had these for over a year. They were given to me. So again, nothing purchased there. These grommets, if I can do this one-handed, most of you may know this, but if not, you kind of just work them around. And these buckets will be cleaned some more, never fear. That grommet is a rubber seal that, due to the inset around it, will pop in and seal both sides of the bucket. Once I take a piece of 3/4 inch pipe such as this and work it in, again, one-handed is a little more difficult, but push it in and it seals it. The water won't leak around it. The water will come out the pipe in the bucket going out. Now, I'm gonna leave that there for right now. I'm in the process now. I've got all the hose in the buckets all the way down. Now I'm drilling the same size hole here. And let me go ahead and pull this pipe. I want to show y'all. Pretty tight. When it comes out of the bucket, it's going to drain straight down in there. Now, I may just leave it like that open. I've got enough grommets, I may put them in there where it'll be sealed off all the way around, and bugs and dirt, whatever, won't fall down in there. This is a working greenhouse here that plants and stuff are all in here, so leaves and stuff, I don't want them actually falling inside this pipe and clogging it. So still trying to decide whether I want to put these grommets in the pipe. I am drilling the same size of hole in the pipe and in the bucket so it can accept the grommets if I decide to do that. Now, one thing I did on this drain pipe is I used some wire and I pulled this up in this hole on this block and tied it as high as it would go. And on that end, I let it rest on the bottom of that hole. Again, I tied it so it wouldn't move. And where this was naturally, I just tied it there so it's kept, you know, if I bump it, it stays in place with all these outlets that are going to go in it. So it is on a slope from one end to the other, you know, what, 4 or 5 inch difference. So the water should flow out pretty good. And I'm not going to finish this all today, but I will be adding to this video as I go, and y'all can see my progress. Hope y'all like this. One thing I didn't mention with this hose saw, now I had spade bits like you drill holes through wood with, and I attempted to use them first and they did not. They chipped everything out real bad. So this is probably your best bet. So I start with it in forward. Now, I'm not the one that invented this. This is something I got from other people that's done this before me. But and I'm not even measuring this. I'm getting it kind of close by eyeballing. And start with it in forward. Now that allows that drill bit that's in there to center your hoe up. Now I'll switch it to reverse so that these teeth aren't digging in and chipping the plastic. In reverse, they basically kind of, they burrow their way through. I don't know if it's quite melting, but it's not as aggressive as doing it with the teeth facing forward, if you get what I mean there. So Here we go, it's in reverse. It only takes a second. You got a fairly clean hoe. And a little sandpaper or something around the edges if you need to deburr it. Good to go. I did try to deburr some of these with a little razor knife, and this plastic is a little softer than I thought it was, so when you do that you tend to dig in and you'll have a irregular hole and you may have some leaks. So I'll be getting me some sandpaper. I don't have any right now, and just buffing on the buckets inside and outside of the hoe. And same thing here. I'll just reach in there with a sandpaper with my finger and go around the inside and buff the outside. Get rid of all these burrs you see right there, and it'll be good to go. All right, so I'm back out here working on these Dutch bucket aquaponic system, and I went yesterday and got some fittings. Now everything's just kind of a fly by the seat of my pants. So my first piece I had was from some pipe that's already glued together, and so I cut it off, and it didn't quite come halfway into the bucket. Okay, when I put the other T on there, so I just measured that and I made all these the same. As I go down to that end, I noticed that this end of my pipe is pulled over to this outside edge of this hoe. Not only did the other end drop like I showed y'all, but it's also pulled to that side of the hoe. So there's going to be a little bit of a difference. So as I get down here, all these pieces I cut the same length will progressively go further into the middle. So you may want to individually cut, measure and cut your pieces if you do this. And I don't guess they don't have to go out to the middle. I mean, they could just come right inside the wall here and drop down. So that being said, that's just what I did. Now, as far as dropping down here, again, as it goes down, this pipe drops down, so my length from here to here is going to increase. So what I've been doing, I'm just using scrap stuff I already had on hand, and what I'm doing is I'm just dropping it, eyeballing maybe 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch in, and up to about where I think it's going to shove into the and it's not exact science, about right there. So I will mark that with my magic marker and cut it, and that's how I'm going to do each one of these. So again, not exact science, just going with it. Now another thing is you can of course cut with the hacksaw, and I did that at first, and you can also cut with a PVC. There's a special cutter you can use for cutting PVC pipe, and them are nice. They don't leave any burred edges. It's clean cut. With the hacksaw, it's going to leave burred edges all around, and you can take that sandpaper and sand it inside and out, get rid of that and smooth it up. I have been cutting them on a chop saw or trim saw, and we'll look at that real quick right there. And just be careful if you do this. I'm gonna make a disclaimer, I do crazy stuff, and it has not chipped my PVC so far, and it's leaving very clean cuts. You do what you feel like you need to do. I'm just crazy sometimes, or most of the time. All right, so I've got all the drains put in, and I did make a mistake. Now this is 3-inch thin wall, or what they call sewer pipe, that I had on hand that I decided to use. Now the problem being, I did not have enough of that to go around where I want to empty back into the goldfish pond. So I decided, well, in the process of adding more pipe, I'll just choke it down from this point. And so I bought, let me find the part. This. Now what this is supposed to do is slip into the 3-inch pipe and choke it down to a 1.5-inch pipe, which is right here. No, that's not it. That's inch. I have a piece of 1.5 somewheres. Anyways, oh, here it is right here. A 1.5. Now that is schedule 40, so the parts work well on that. However, this I guess, if I'm not mistaken, on 3-inch schedule 40 PVC, that is the inside diameter, whereas on this thin wall it's pretty much the outside diameter maybe. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to make this work. So I'll be going back to the hardware store. So just another thing to think about. Go with all the same type of pipe. All schedule 40 or all thin walls, so you can get the parts that match up correctly. And it may be, now they do make rubber boots that will transition, and since this is not under pressure, I may have to do that. We shall see. But for right now, we've got the drains in. Wish me luck. Okay, so we've gotten a little bit further on this Dutch bucket aquaponics deal. I've actually got my pump kind of rigged up for right now. In the long run, this black line will not be exposed. It'll come out of the bottom, but it'll follow underneath some of this stuff till it gets around back here, and we'll figure a way to hide it from there on up. So not all the buckets are operational. The ones that do have hoses. Remember, this was a used irrigation deal, so I had to put a plug in this one. That's plugged off. And so some of the buckets still have to have some drip line put on them, but there you go. They're filling up. They won't fill up all the way. They'll only, especially with as slow as the water is going in them, they should never get over 2 inches deep of water in the bottom. And at that point, they will drain out and down. So yeah, I know some of my buckets still need cleaning. This is a work in progress, but pull that out and you can see it's coming out as fast as it's going in. Going into the, with this pipe being slanted, I hadn't put a cap on here yet, but with it slanted, it's rolling away from this end, so it's okay for right now during this testing phase. So the water's going down, and I choked it down here because I had some this size pipe, not enough of this, so I went and bought some parts. Now, I don't like this per se because the water can get, you know, inch and a half deep in this big pipe on this end before it goes out. But from this point, it's all sloped. None of this is glued. It's all sloped and it's coming out right there. And we'll use some pieces of wood or bark or something to paint and camouflage that pipe in the long run. So that's what'll happen. It'll pump out of here in the lower pond, pump out of here into the Dutch bucket system, water whatever I have planted in them, constantly drain out and come back into the top, down the waterfall and out again. Eventually I'll have another little pump powering my little waterfall and my little water pump fall here. So it's all coming together. This takes time. It'll get better and better, gooder and gooder. So I've noticed, and Most of these jugs that come out, they've been all night, and they're staying pretty much halfway up on this pipe, staying at a constant level, pretty much all of them. Now I just put a couple of these just got their new hoses, so they've all got their fill hoses in. But I did mention that this pipe sends as how this choke down comes. You know, we got this much water before it actually can flow out. That means this first bucket, you know, is backing up in here and keeping so much water at the end of my pipe, and I may just have to cut that back a little bit more. The end of my pipe is going down into the surface of the water. Now here's what that causes. Whether that's a problem or not, I'll probably treat it as a problem. It's causing the water to back up somewhat in here as it's flowing out, you know, up inside there. And what that does is allows the water to get way up, you know, over the pipe a little bit, for the weight of it actually causes it a siphon effect. What that means is once that flow actually starts, cause enough pressure to overcome the upward pressure of this water in the pipe, it totally drains the bucket down below this point here, before it breaks the siphon and quits. So it actually empties this bucket every so often. It doesn't stay at a level like these do and keep a reservoir. Now whether that's actually a problem or not, I don't know. It would work just fine still. But until I can find a better solution for this, I'm probably going to just cut this pipe shorter down here. That's why I don't glue anything. You always want to make, you know, you always need to make changes. None of these are glued. None of this is glued. There's no pressure. It's just a little bit of water flowing through it, so they're just pressed together. And I can undo anything, change anything out. If a bucket turns bad, I can take the parts off of the bucket, put another bucket in its place, and use the same parts. Whatever. So, that being said, I think part of my fix for this one is to cut this pipe to where it's just barely inside the hole there, just so it doesn't splash out. You know, just let it come inside here just a little bit, and that should help me to keep my water in this bucket at a constant level, because it'll constantly be flowing out without backing up into the pipe. I wish it would hurry up so I could show you what it does. Okay, so I'm just going to pour some water in here. Let's see, I don't know if that started the siphon. Yeah, that started the siphon. See it emptying? Watch this. It's like a toilet or something. You hear that? So it basically emptied it to, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch or a 1/4 inch of water on the bottom. And then it'll start all over. So once that water gets full like that, it'll do that repeatedly, over and over. Just kind of like a flood and drain system. But that's not what we're going for. We're going for a constant amount of water retained in the bottom of these buckets. Now the reason why, if something was to go wrong with my pump for a day or two, with the amount of water that's left in these buckets, once the plants get their roots down into that, they would have enough moisture to keep them going. They wouldn't just die. In the heat of the summer this next year, when I have plants in here, if my pump failed, especially if I didn't catch it for a day or so, then there would be no water in here if they was all just constantly draining out. If I put the drain down at a level where these buckets would not retain a couple inches of water, this way they have something to drink for several days if something was to happen. So anyways, gotta go fix my pipe.